primary ignition.
I'm just not the hero type, clearly.
What a piece of junk.
Enterprise, this is the captain.
I got a bad feeling about this.
It's all part of the plan.
Engage.
Welcome back to Podcast 2 for 1. I'm your host, Donovan Thompson, with my co-host,
Daniel Wingfield.
And today is episode 231 of Podcast 2 for 1, youtube.com/@2for1 studios. It's the best place to consume all the content. If you didn't know, listeners, and let's be honest, you probably did not, we are sponsored by Kapow Comics, located at 4047 East Hill Avenue in Sherwood, Arkansas. And that they have comic books, collectibles, graphic novels, and of course, special guest appearances throughout the year.
Kapow.
Daniel, we're 10 episodes away from our destiny. How does that feel?
It feels destiny-ish.
Feels like destiny
feels very
has arrived.
destinally. You know what I mean? Destinally.
It does feel very destinally. Yeah, honestly, it feels like, I was talking to someone yesterday, and it's like, yeah, we did a podcast every week for 5 years. And some weeks we only hit every week, but we're pretty good at it most of the time, and sometimes we do 2 a week.
Exactly.
But
and we used to make other content with it too.
Oh yeah. And so I mean, that's kind of crazy. It's 5 years. Does it make you feel not great or good, or I don't know yet?
I think it's great. I don't, there's always part of me that wants to be like, well, why don't we have 1 billion followers? And then I'm like, oh yeah, it's because we talk about the same thing that every other couple white guys talk about on podcasts and YouTube. Ooh. And so there's just a little bit of, market saturation, just a little bit. But to me, it's like, I've been really proud of how we've developed this, we've developed as hosts and entertainers, and are we
entertainers? Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, I think technically, but for me, it's just I get to meet with my best friend and talk about the shit we love to talk about, and
that's very true. I agree.
We happen to hit record somewhere within that, and then upload it. That's but like, there's something about it being a podcast that almost makes it more. Well, it necessitates like consistency. It's like once a week we're going to get together and talk about an hour about all the shit we love to talk about. And I think it's just been really nice to have that with you personally.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm excited for the next 10 episodes and where we're going after that. And let's talk about Invincible season 3, episodes 1, 2, and 3. This has been kind of a theme. I feel like, 2025 so far is that all the great shows, have been coming out. Severance. I'm enjoying Spider-Man. We're eating good right now, and Invincible was one of those shows we've been talking about for a while. We can't wait for it to come back, even though I think we both felt like season 2 may have been a little weaker than the first season, somewhat because of the structure of their release schedule, and also just because maybe there was just some narrative things that weren't hitting as well or as interesting compared to season 1. But nevertheless, we were both excited for season 3. And of course, it just kind of snuck up on me. I think it probably snuck up on you too. Like, oh, here's 3 episodes. They've been dropped. And last weekend, I was like, oh, this, and I kind of made like a ritual. Like every night, the last hour, I'd watch an Invincible episode. Yeah. And man, it's just, it feels like being wrapped in a warm blanket. Like, even though, we'll get into like nitty gritty a little bit, but I just love this world. I love the characters in it, and I love Cecil, I love Mark, and it just, what a fun superhero world. And I cannot wait for tonight when that next episode comes out.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think I already do feel like this season feels stronger than season 2, just in terms of plot. I feel like it hooked kind of us into like what the main thread of the season's going to be. We kind of know where everything's kind of going to a degree at this point, whereas I don't feel like last season, 3 episodes in, we haven't even met Nolan yet or gotten back with him potentially. And so I think this season's starting a lot stronger. I mean, both with Invincible's conflict with Cecil, and then with Invincible dealing with is it Arthur? Is that their
Oliver?
Oliver, excuse me. And then Invincible and his mom dealing with Oliver and figuring out how to deal with raising a kid like this. It's been great, man. I think it's putting our main character in interesting, conflicting situations. Seeing him in this last episode like choke Cecil, and like you're like, okay, like this is pretty fucking wild, and I think the stakes already feel more interesting because it's not just save the world, it's two different good guys aren't seeing things the same way, even though they ultimately want the same thing, and so I think that's always more interesting than just bad guy destroy world, make them stop. And so yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I think there's been a couple moments where I've felt like the animation is a little minimal, maybe, or like I don't know, just not when you compare it to something like Rick and Morty, where it's just kind of constant, really interesting animation. I feel like this one sometimes it feels like it's trying to be cheap, not cheap, but trying to like, okay, well, let's just use a still frame here in one word because we don't need to animate
Come out on time, you mean?
a,
Trying to come out on schedule.
yeah, or just budget. And I think, we understand how animation works in that, like, if you're going to have a ridiculous animation in episode 4 that's going to cost, tens of thousands of dollars, well, we got to do less in episode 3 or something like that. I get that. And maybe that's all this is. And part of it too is that I feel like last season, while I didn't perceive it, I heard some criticisms of the animation from last season. And I remember being like, I didn't really notice that. And so part of me wonders, am I like looking for that now?
Sure.
Now that I heard about it, I'm almost, is it being a self-fulfilling prophecy kind of thing that I'm seeing it? Or am I noticing just sometimes a lack of detail or sometimes just a lack of animation at all? Just we're using a lot of still images sometimes, I guess. But anyway.
I didn't really feel the pull on the animation so much as you did.
Okay.
But I did feel like, well, I'll say this, we keep talking about this. I feel like it's a running theme. This show doesn't do it as much, or this, I think, second or third episode, but we got a little backstory of Cecil, which I really enjoyed.
Episode 2, yeah, that was great.
And I feel like it was
was
probably
great.
20 or so, maybe 25 minutes, which is like almost a third or half the episode.
Yeah.
Maybe less, I don't know. But
Yeah.
I really liked jumping back to see him to kind of put in more
Mhm.
context, his mindset. Of course, Walter Goggins, I could listen to that man
Yes,
read a cereal
absolutely.
box. I mean, I
Absolutely.
love him and everything he does. I'm never,
He's one of the leads in White Lotus season 3. That's one of the reasons we're very excited about it. Is he's one of the main guys in it. And
Yeah.
the first episode drops Sunday. We're eating real good right now. I mean, it's just like
I need to-
constant new episodes
to
of
start
good
it.
shows right now, man.
I mentioned
Yellow
it to
Jackets is that this
Kinley.
weekend too?
Is it really? I knew that. I saw a preview for it. I just started Landman this week, so I saw a
Oh,
preview
okay.
for it
Okay. Yeah.
on Landman, which I'm really liking. It's more Taylor Sheridan and
But it's got Billy Bob in it, so
it's got Billy Bob in it.
so
Yeah,
it's
old Arkansas
it's a
Billy
bit
Bob.
elevated. He kind of like, dude, that guy is such a like, he brings such gravitas to any character, and he almost sometimes it feels like he acts he acts very similar across lots of characters. Maybe just because his accent is so strong that it's constant. He
Sure.
doesn't really ever not do the accent. But man, just the like, he brings such a new, like a just depth to random characters. I don't know if it's just his look, it's the way he speaks, it's just something about him. But he just like any role I'm in, I'm just like, yeah, I love it. You're great. I want more of this role. We're in you.
I'm pretty confident in saying this. I'm pretty sure that he got nominated for an Emmy for this
Okay.
for this first season.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, it's, so far he hasn't, done anything super extravagant, but I do love watching him, just like you're talking about.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Taylor's dialogue with Billy Bob it's really fun. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been enjoying that. And I have a feeling he enjoys the show too. I don't
Sure.
know that, but I think he does. So, I love us bouncing back to Cecil, seeing that conflict. And yeah, you're right. There's these two things happening. One, we're dealing with the aftermath of Mark killing Angstrom, and
Yeah.
I think it's Angstrom, right?
Yeah.
And
Extreme Levy.
which is Sterling K. Brown, which
Mhm.
his show Paradise is going on now, and me and Kimberly are watching
Heard good
it.
things about that. Is it good?
I don't know yet. I'm 4
Yeah.
episodes in.
I've heard it's
and I
like a
just
mystery
don't-
box show, but you're not sure if it's a good mystery box show yet, kind of thing. It's like,
Yeah, there was some decent stuff last episode 4, but it was stuff. I mean, I'm every twist I'm calling in the first 5 minutes of that
Okay.
episode.
Okay.
But also I'm gonna
Yeah.
be right, and I'm like, I bet this is gonna happen
But
because of
I can do
this,
that for lots of shows, and sometimes I feel like it's just part of studying and watching so much and
That's what
studying
I'm saying.
story. You can't help it. It's
Yeah,
not
I
always
don't
an
think-
indicator of just bad predictability, I guess.
No, yeah, I think Kimberly is not enjoying my sixth sense on this show because I'm like, this is what's going to happen. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
They showed that shot because of the,
Yeah.
like I'm in kind of narrating a little bit.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the show. But Sterling K. Brown's good in it. I don't know yet about the show. The writing's kind of
Okay.
all over the place, and
Okay.
it's got some good production value. It's really well made.
Hmm.
But
And I will say, just as an aside, and just because I have to, with Severance, I've tried to predict a few things, and I've been wrong almost every time. And I just want to credit the show for that because
well, I've never looked. I told you this last time. I've
Yeah.
never looked into theories ever until
No.
I've never talked to anyone about it until I talked to you about it on the podcast.
Yeah.
And then I started getting these videos that I've sent
Yeah.
you a couple. And
Yeah.
part of it is like I feel like the theories are so good. I'm like, oh, this has to be it.
Yeah,
And
sure.
I kind of don't want to watch those anymore.
No, yeah, I don't want to really, because I don't want to be spoiled that much, because that's like an in-depth, like we're looking at every frame and what is this text over here that's kind of blurry. Like I have no time or energy to go that in depth. This is
And
just
that
more
per-
like as I'm watching it and I'm ingesting a story, I start to just feel the like natural rhythms of the story. I'm like, oh, I bet this character will die when this happens now,
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And usually, like when we watch just anything, I'm trying to remember what we were watching recently. That I felt like it was just like easy. It was like, yeah, this will happen. And it was a good show. It wasn't a bad show. But I have felt like I've tried to do that with Severance, and I've just almost every time they go a direction I wasn't thinking, and it's always good. So anyway, just wanted to praise Severance one more time. Can't wait for tonight. So excited for more Severance.
Me too.
Mm.
On Invincible.
Yeah.
We hit every new show coming out currently on television.
Yeah.
So on Invincible,
Yes.
I think the two things I feel like this theme of the season, I think last year was, will you become your father? Or he's afraid to become his father because
Yeah.
he saw what his dad did in season one. And
Yeah.
of course that ended with him killing Angstrom, right?
Yeah.
And there's a strong argument that it was deserved. Like, he was literally trying to save his family.
Yeah.
And this guy was not going to stop or whatever.
Yeah.
So season 3, it really feels like Mark is because this happens a lot. Whenever you kind of cross a barrier, that barrier is easier to cross.
Yeah.
Again. And so even these first 2-3 episodes, obviously he's more violent. He's doing things that are just a little more aggressive.
Yeah.
And of course, Cecil is not taking this very well. At the same time, you have now Oliver coming in. And let me tell you what I hope happens. I don't know the comic. I've stayed away from it, even though I've this close many times of buying all of them and reading them because I wonder what happens.
Yeah.
I've been not because I started the show first.
Yeah.
And so to me, Oliver, of course, is your worst nightmare to come to fruition, right?
Sure.
It's someone without empathy that is taking the characteristics of the ideology and the characteristics of someone that's not very great.
Yeah.
And how do you control that? How do you control someone who is younger and reckless? And I mean, it's a fun way of giving him his Robin. I mean, giving him a sidekick, but also makes the stakes much more. I mean, like you look at Batman and Damian Wayne, right? He's had lots of Robins, but that may be like the most consequential Robin, right? In terms of someone who is killing people and really against his code. But then you amp that up to 11. Now it's like Superman and Damian.
Right. Exactly.
Where it's like you're someone who can just kill a whole population of people without even blinking.
Yes.
And what do you do to cork that before it becomes too late?
Yes.
My thinking is, if I recall, that this species has a limited lifespan, right? But they're accelerated, growing.
Yeah.
I wonder if he's going to become the big bad by the end of the season. Is he going to be the physical threat that
I
has
don't
to
know.
fight? I mean, think about
I could see
that
him being
conflict.
a red herring one. I could see him becoming the big bad, but that turns good right at the end and saves the day kind of thing. I could see that happening for sure.
I'm assuming he's going to die because of the age thing eventually.
Yeah,
Like
I don't remember what the age thing was exactly, but he is half Viltrumite. And Viltrumites live hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. So even if it averaged out, it'd be a long time, I would think.
But he's been he went from 0 to
no, you're right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't know,
Yeah.
but I will say you're right, and I think right now, like I love I really do enjoy the Cecil Invincible conflict. I'm enjoying that, but I think the thing with Oliver is like the best thing the show's doing right now. And I really loved in this last episode how it was really great. So I just want to talk through it. So like, Oliver kills the two blue twin guys that are in every season that I love. I love them every time they show up. They're great.
Me too.
So he kills them, and then Invincible's like, you can't, like, really kind of being very reactionary and like yelling at him, telling him, no, you can't do that. Don't do that. And the kid's just like kind of, he's getting his feelings hurt. He isn't receptive to that kind of correction because he was literally doing what he saw his brother do. He was trying to help. He thought he did in every way. And then, like, to a degree, he was right. When Invincible was like, well, you did this. And he's like, yeah, but you did. And he's like, Oliver has some key points where he's making logical sense. And Invincible's fear is overriding that, saying, but because he's afraid, you still can't do it. We can't let you do this. And I love how then later in the episode, they get home, and instead of this reactionary, like, oh my God, because I was feeling it too with Invincible, like, oh my God, this kid is a problem. This kid is going to be a problem, right? And like, to be honest, that unfortunately can mirror some of like honest parent reactions to your kids. You know what I mean? I think at least the way I was raised to be like, don't do that, you'll ruin your life. Kind of everything was, don't do that, you'll ruin your life, right? And so there's part of me that anytime I see maybe something that I deem an unhealthy habit, or I deem, oh, but what if this leads to that? There's part of me that wants to be reactionary, like, okay, we got to fix this, right? We got to just stop this, whatever it is, and make him stop and not let him do this. And for one, that almost never works, and isn't necessary. It's never like he's, doing extreme sports and going to hurt himself. It's it's like me, he should pick up after himself more. It's like little, just whatever. And I feel like that's how Invincible's reacting. He's like, no, don't do that. Correct it. Stop right now. And then we get with Mom, she understands, like, this is a process. He's not a finished product right now. He's a kid. He's learning how to empathize. And if we don't help him understand that, he won't know. And that's called humanity. We don't know what we don't know. And if we're not taught, we can't know how to do it. Right. And so it's like this beautiful picture of her being like, and almost so easily and so smoothly being like, hey, but didn't you think about it this way? And how would you feel about that? And he's immediately on the same page. He's like, oh, I get it now. He gets it. You know what I mean? And it was this motherly, gentle, not jumping to conclusions, not letting fear take over and trying to control everything right now. It's like, no, let's just actually, this kid, he's a good kid. He's not a bad kid. He's not a bad apple. He just needs guidance. And, and part of it is that Invincible's really not ready to give him that guidance. Invincible's still figuring himself out. Invincible's still trying to figure out if he should kill and when he should kill. He really doesn't have the capacity to also arbitrate that and figure that out for Oliver. You know what I mean? And so it's this wonderful just kind of mix of like, he's trying to raise him to be a superhero, but he doesn't even really know what that means yet. You know what I mean? But then you have Mom who's just treating him like a normal kid and is, really helping him adjust better. I don't know. I just thought that was just really good writing and really good story and really just good illustration of like, and I just felt like the show intentionally made me think, oh shit, Oliver's a nuclear bomb. When's it going to go off? Oh, Oliver's just a kid. Oliver just needs guidance. You know what I mean? In the space of, 15 minutes or whatever was between that and the show. And I just thought that felt very real to me. That felt like real life interpreted into the show, and I thought that was really good.
I do agree with you. Obviously, there's a change there, but I just don't think we're out of the woodwork yet with him. Obviously, he's going to make mistakes.
No.
But I don't know. Like, I feel like you're more confident that he is going to be on a bumpy yet correct path. I'm not convinced yet. I don't know.
Here's my prediction for how it's going to go. My prediction is that Oliver and Invincible are going to continue to bump heads, which will eventually put Oliver on a path to evil to some degree. I think he will become or almost become a big bad at some point. But I think he will come back either right at the end in a way that like he then sacrifices himself, Darth Vader style. Or, I mean, I could also see a version where Invincible's mom dies in order to redeem him or something. You know what I mean? Like I agree. I thought we were going towards Oliver's bad. He will be bad. They have to kill him. It's just evil, like kind of direction. But until that scene with mom, then it was like, no, I think they're going to at least, they're not going to just make him out to be evil. They're at least going to give him like something that is a twist on that. I agree. I think the season is heading towards an Invincible versus Oliver battle, which it already seems like Oliver's more powerful than him in some ways. And so I think that will be coming to a head. But yeah, still, I don't think it will be. He's not going to be Nolan. Oliver's not going to be another Nolan. I don't think. I think Oliver's going to be redeemable, but problematic.
Can you remind me, because I forgot, how did he end up with Mark's mom? Did
Mark brought him home? Mark
brought him home.
Mark, he was a tiny baby, and then Mark came home from that planet and that whole ordeal, and she, I mean, she knows it was Nolan's baby or whatever. You know, she was.
Yeah, I knew that part. For some reason, my brain was like, did Nolan drop the baby off? Does Nolan even know they have the baby? I don't.
He gave him. Well, I think he asked Invincible to take. I know that Nolan's wife of that planet asked Invincible to take him.
Okay.
I think Nolan was aware of that too.
Man, what a fucking prick Nolan is. Hey, ex-wife that raised my other child. Whatever.
Yeah.
But
he's a prick that has a redeemable. Like the interesting thing about Nolan now is that he. I mean, at this point, it feels like he will come back to the good side. It might be at the very end, but it does feel like he's not just a Viltrumite. He's not we're the Viltrumites, we deserve everything, we're going to kill everyone else. He's not that anymore.
Yeah,
so
we've been getting a very slow drip in terms of, him and Seth Rogen's character.
Yeah, that was great. That like, you're alive,
I feel like I think there have been better ways to kind of, instead of just these two always constantly talking to each other and being annoying to each other, other ways to kind of see that. And I know the end of last season, literally the last thing we saw was he's like, I want to see my wife, or I miss my wife, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And we're already 3 episodes in, and we've gotten a little bit of Nolan. Again, I think Nolan, like we've talked about in the past, is that he's going to be on a path to somewhat redemption. He's going to sacrifice himself for Mark or for Oliver. Both.
And that almost makes me think Oliver won't do that exactly. I don't think they're going to do the same plot point with both characters, probably. So it makes me question even my theory about Oliver. But I did love in that scene with Seth Rogen and Nolan the whole laser thing, where he's like, they're going to cut you open and figure out why you're so strong. And he's like, they don't have a laser big enough. And then he's like on this thing with the giant laser. And then it like cuts to, he's just back in the cell with a little burn mark. He's like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, Nolan's like, holy crap,
Yeah, I know. But it was just this funny, like, it was obviously setting it up for like, oh, he doesn't know how big their laser is. But the laser, he's still too powerful for the laser. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was great.
I think we mentioned this before, but he is just another version of Doomsday where you beat him up and then he comes back stronger. And
but there was a Viltrumite building him, right? Like that's what was revealed at the end of last season. That the guy that was his little laboratory
voiced by Peter Cullen, I believe, was the guy.
Yeah.
So who does not change his voice from Optimus Prime at all in that voiceover. But and even piggybacking on there, it was nice to see Nolan's first foray onto Earth and Cecil and like seeing that dynamic and just kind of Cecil's approach to him and then finding out, this is not nothing surprised me here, but it's good to see Cecil's ideology in terms of how he's going to deal with superpowered people, his contingency plans. It feels like it's standard Amanda Waller, Nick Fury, those kind of things.
I mean, it's the line they use. It's a good line, but at this point, we have heard it a lot in every form. You can either be a good guy or you can save the world. That's a perfect encapsulation of Cecil's ideology. You can either play by the rules or you can save the world.
And I think what will be cool this season is that Mark really has to prove that you can do both. He has to save the world this season, and he has to show that you can be a good person and do it. And I think Cecil we have to see that it's changing Cecil, and then Cecil needs to be different moving forward after season 3, if assuming he survives.
He's got to survive. Come on,
I love
such
him
an interesting
so much.
character. Sure,
he's
he's such a natural conflict. Like he conflicts with everyone. He's just a natural you need someone to conflict. Throw Cecil in the scene; he'll piss somebody off. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So he's just like a you want that person in the story still. You want that drama still. So I hope.
Well,
I
another
hope
thing
it's-
too is that, and we kind of start to wrap things up here. So I guess the shorter part of the day is we see in the last shot or last few shots in episode 3, we see the return of Angstrom. And
is that
so,
is that who that was? That was his voice. Okay, I
yeah,
just couldn't
because a
place
great
it.
thing, my favorite thing about Amazon Prime is you can pause it and it will tell you who's on camera,
Oh
and
yeah.
that
So
includes voice actors. So I just paused it as Sterling K. Brown, and so
okay.
yeah, it seems
So,
like
but
he's
which we knew he
returned.
had like multiple he was like a whole multiversal dude. Like that was his whole thing
Yeah.
is that he existed in every multiverse and found out how to travel and shit. So
Here's the question: does his return, if let's just say he is that one that Mark killed,
yeah.
does that alleviate Mark from the guilt of killing Angstrom? And like he's actually not a bad guy, or he doesn't feel like he's a bad guy anymore.
Or was that the plan the whole time? Has this been a long game from Angstrom? Not it because you remember in every other universe he went to, Mark was a bad guy. Mark was a bad guy in every single other universe. And so is this him trying to make this Mark a bad guy too?
To justify him killing
finding
him,
ways
or,
basically just trying to lead him gently down the path until he's just willing to kill anybody kind of thing.
yeah.
You know,
Well,
I could definitely see that
I
being
did hear that tonight's episode is a big one. Like it's
Oh, really?
supposed to have some big ramifications.
cool.
I don't know what that means, but that
Yeah.
they even like put a trailer out and like saying like, "Hey, watch episode 4. Like this is a big one for the season."
Interesting.
So
That's exciting.
I'm excited. Yeah, I'm very excited for that. And yeah, throwing and my fear is throwing Angstrom back in there, whether it has to do with,
Yeah.
Mark being good or not, or whatever these things. I'm afraid we're kind of going back to a plot point that was, I think, the
Sure.
weakest of season 2, just because of it kind of bookended the show.
Yeah, I mean, I do think, which this is always true, there's a lot of threads going right now. Then we keep cutting to that guy that's like the gangster of, he's like a kingpin type character and he's negotiating with that dude that looks like he's from Cyberpunk. That obviously feels like it's going somewhere. Now Angstrom is back. Now, everything between Mark and Cecil, Oliver, and then all the other characters have their own little side things going on. The Guardians have kind of their own little, and then like the Guardians and the teen, whatever they broke apart for, and like there is a lot going on, and I do hope we don't feel like hope the season still feels focused in a enjoyable way.
Can you remind me? Remember the Vigilmite woman came to Earth and they duked it out, her and Mark.
Yeah.
What happened to that? I can't remember. Like again, it's been
I
a year
think he
now.
like was getting his ass beat, but then like dug deep and like got a good punch on her and she ran away or something. Like I don't think he beat her up, but he stood up to her and was able to stand up to her. And it was kind of this
I just
he
wonder
was
if
able
that's
to hold his ground a little bit versus her.
obviously Nolan is doing this thing with Seth Rogen. I can't think of the character's name.
Yeah.
But again, to me, the show is the looming conflict of this is going to be Mark versus the Viltrumites. Like that's the end game, right? That has to be.
Right.
I
Or
assume it has
Earth
to be.
versus the Viltrumites. Yeah.
Yes. And so I kind of wish, they would, I don't know, thread it in a little bit more stronger instead of focusing, like you're saying, on it. We feel like we do have 5 or 6 plots going on, and sometimes it's like 30 seconds on one character, and then,
Yeah.
again, next episode, you're like, oh, yeah, there's something happening there too that hopefully is going to tie into some of these things.
Right. Yeah. So I think that there was somewhat of an ultimate. I think when he fought that lady, it was kind of this like, okay, now you have this much time and we're coming back then. And if you haven't turned this whole place into, a Viltrumite place, we're going to destroy everything. So we may have been given a ticking clock then. I don't recall specifically.
How do you feel about the discussion here of the like villain reformation, like in terms of second chances and the Dark Hawk guy, whatever his name is?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think it's really interesting. I mean, I don't think it's not a black and white thing, which is the great thing about the show. Very little is. There's no really black and white characters, not much at least. And so, especially the good characters, there's a few black and white, like there's a few just classically evil, kind of like the blue guys even. But most of the good guys are like very, very much a shade of gray. And this issue feels like a shade of gray. You know, you can see it from both sides. You can see it from Cecil's side of like, we have to do everything we can or we will die, all of us. And if I'm not using every option I can, I don't feel like I'm doing my job. And so I like at like a human race survival level, that makes total sense. But at the same time, you know, taking people, mad scientists, and like, I don't know, fucking with their brains so they comply to you, and then making
this
them.
feels more like it's not like going to therapy and actually seeing the error of your ways. It feels more like mind control to a
It feels like
version of mind control.
lobotomies, but they can
Yes.
still do what they want them to do. You know, which is like
And have personality or whatever, but it feels like a true like any
we're
moment they can
brainwashing
snap
you.
back. Yes,
Yeah,
brainwashing.
yes,
That's the word
yes,
I'm
yes,
looking
yes.
for. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. No, it does. And there's obviously so many ethical problems with that. Like, just you don't need to get into them because they're obvious. And so it really is a wonderful. I mean, even just an illustration of so many issues going on in the world today. Of like, you know, do we do what guarantees more survival, or do we do what takes more care of people? Or you know what I mean? There's sometimes like those kind of conflicts, and this feels like a nice in that vein of like, yeah, that's, you know, I mean, in many ways, what Cecil is doing or the decisions he's making right now, many presidents of many different countries have made. You know, do we even like, you know, in Britain when they like, you know, like when they figured out the Turing machine or whatever, and they like could decode German frequencies now, and they like could know every attack they were doing. They had to intentionally decide we can't disrupt everything they do, or they'll know we've cracked the code and they'll change it again.
Sure.
So we
and
have to,
people died because of that decision.
yes,
But
we
at the
have
same
to know
time,
we're
who did they
sending our
save?
troops into
Yeah.
we're sending our troops into a trap, and we can't tell them. And we
Yeah.
can't. We just have to let them be what it is. I think that's a similar kind of situation where it's just like, fuck, you kind of have to sell your soul to do the right thing to a degree. Like part of your soul has to be like okay with letting people die. You know what I mean? So I think it's a wonderful kind of, you know, plot point. I think it's great. And I think that's, you know, what Invincible has consistently done is just make ridiculous superpower dramas feel very relatable. And I think,
And on the flip
you know,
side, I
very
do
good
think
example.
Mark's thesis will be hopefully that you can do the right thing and save the world at the same time. Like there is
Yes.
like classic William Shatner Star Trek.
Yes.
There is, you know, what is it? Kobayashi Maru. There
Yes.
is a no-win scenario. There
Yes.
are no-win scenarios. And
Yes.
so I'm hoping that's the thing. It's the magical, fun superhero version where I get to be
Yes.
happy and optimistic. And so I'm
Yes.
hoping that Mark gets to explore that and to prove
Yeah.
Cecil and prove his dad wrong. Like I hope his dad sees it too, whatever he does.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Um,
I agree. I think, no, yeah, it's so we'll see. I mean, even to a degree, Nolan was thinking that way through the whole process of deciding if he was going to take over the earth. He was like, even when he was telling Mark in their big battle, he was like, you realize what happens if I don't do this? Everyone dies. The Viltrumites come in and they lay waste to everything. And so in this way, we're actually saving people. We're making them conform to Viltrumite standards, and therefore they'll actually live. Versus if we don't, and then the whole Earth will be destroyed. And we're just two guys. We couldn't have a chance at stopping them. You know what I mean? And so there it is interesting that like that was kind of some of the logic that Nolan was operating under when he was doing everything. And you know, and to a degree, it's such a great example of how so often we fool ourselves into making decisions that we fool ourselves into being okay with decisions that are fucked up. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And I think you're seeing that with Cecil, you're seeing that with Nolan, and obviously you're seeing people feel like Invincible should be okay with that. You know what I mean? And he's not.
Yeah. Well, there's
so
an
yeah.
interesting thing too there in terms of I think I think in that moment he was correct, but because of a system that has these kind of patterns and the way humanity typically, even though sometimes you'll take a few steps back, humanity has been on a trajectory upward in terms of being
Right.
more open and caring, those kind of things. And
Yes.
so there are generations in the past that felt like, and in a lot of degree, had to make really hard choices to make it where Mark is
Yeah.
at the perfect place and the perfect time to shift the
Sure.
paradigm.
Right.
Like if this happened 15, 20 years earlier, they would have lost.
Or
Viltrumites would have
even,
come
yeah,
in.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Right. No, I hear you.
You know what I'm
Yeah, I
saying?
agree.
Like it,
Yeah.
and so it's like it's a poetic and a storytelling sense that all these things had to happen, even the horrible things, so Mark could
Yeah.
become invincible.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think it's it. And I think that's what ultimately keeps me coming back to Invincible. Like I love superhero animated shit, so I'm probably gonna watch it anyway. And I love superhero deconstruction shit. I'm already gonna watch it anyway. But when you have both of those, and you're talking about real shit, you're dealing with like humanity problems, like at a soul level. God damn, that's crack.
yeah.
I love that
Well,
shit, man.
again, and you say the word deconstruction. I think a lot of people talk about like Zack Snyder's stuff or
Or
Watchmen, and
Watchmen. Yeah, that's yeah.
yeah,
That's the
and
way
the
to look
thing
at it.
I've always said about this since episode one is that to me this feels like it's deconstruction in the way that it's not super chipper and we're kind of getting a more real world look at things,
Yeah.
but we still have that Spider-Man-esque. It's
Yes.
a fairy tale. We're having
It's not
characters who are
Watchmen or The
funny.
Boys where there's just this overall tone of pessimism and everything sucks and
Yeah,
nothing's ever going to really get better. Even if you beat this battle, you didn't really do anything. You know, like,
right.
yeah, yes, no, I agree. And I think that can be kind of tiring with those shows too. Like, I'm already ready for, I mean, I think The Boys should have ended a season ago
I mean,
probably, but
you
like,
haven't even seen the last season of The
no, I
Boys,
haven't.
correct?
That tells you
Yeah.
how much I've been into
Yeah,
it. I
and
mean,
it did feel like it's overstayed its welcome a little
well, it
bit,
just feels
and
like it's just doing the same things over and over again with different characters. You know, it's just feel like
yeah,
we've already done this emotionally. We've already done this kind of moment, and we're just doing it again with more penis or whatever they're doing in this new
yeah,
season. Um,
yep.
but anyway, I just think yeah. I mean, I think that to me is why Invincible is the cream of the crop is because they're telling a story. They're not giving us Superman where all the good guys are actually good and all the bad guys are actually bad and you know all it's everything's complicated, everyone's a gray area, no one's a saint, and even the sinners have parts of them that are like redeemable maybe, but and this feeling of like everything keeps seems like it keeps going to shit. Everything feels like it keeps going wrong in this universe. Like Mark is not having a good time. It's like, and then this happens, and that fucks this up, and then and there's a degree of that even just feels close to reality, at least for me sometimes. Of like,
Yeah,
it just kind of feels you can't stop like getting your knees cut out from you from the next challenge you didn't see coming, and so I just think it's got all that but then it stays optimistic. But then it still sees like the good in humanity and like is fighting for something. I think that's just it's kind of beautiful. It's awesome.
I'm really hoping. That's the last thing I'll say about it. We'll move on. Is I'm hoping at the end of this season there is a clear win for Mark. Like I feel like every season, even though he beat
I don't know.
Angstrom, he lost the battle for a part of his soul. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
the first
yeah,
season he loses against his father, and he's constantly getting his ass whipped in this
yeah,
show. And I'm really hoping that this third end of the season is that he gets at least one small victory
yeah,
that cements him as like. Because there's a thing too that even I just thought of this. I haven't really thought about it too much. Is that we haven't seen a lot of the reaction of the world to
sure.
Invincible. And I
Yeah,
really want to see like people be inspired by him by the end of the
yeah,
season.
yeah. That'd be great. I have a sneaking suspicion that he won't win anything till the end. Like he's just
He
he
might
that's
not.
it's kind of he's the
Superhero punching
invincible punching
bag.
bag. Yeah, no, he's the invincible will never always stays optimistic, which isn't true actually. I mean, he waffles. You know, even this last episode, he was like he was ready to give up on Oliver essentially. You know what I mean? And like he's not constantly optimistic, but he always ends up optimistic. He always comes back to being optimistic. You know, and even that feels realistic. You know what I mean? That feels like he still goes through ups and downs. He still loses belief, but he always finds his way back.
He loses a lot. And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I'm excited for tonight. I'm excited
Yeah.
for Severance. I'm not super excited for Yellow Jackets, but like I'm curious and
Yeah,
I
is
have
I
to
don't think
actually
we
do
have
like a
Showtime right now. I have a feeling we may let that one build up and then like binge it.
I need to do like a recap because I can't remember everything that happened in the last season.
I just
Um,
remember some weird shit happening.
like,
So
I gotta tell you this. And here's a
yeah.
cool thing about the Spider-Man show.
Oh yeah.
The first, I think they dropped the first two episodes,
Mm-hmm.
I think, and then they dropped three episodes next week, and then two episodes next
Oh,
week,
that's
two
nice.
episodes,
That's
and so
nice.
it's kind of a cool format that I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I like every week I'm getting like two or
An
three in a
hour.
row.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting like
Yeah.
an hour of different whatever. The last episode I watched, which was before this previous two episode drops, I have two more to go that could be caught up. The last episode, there's a twist in it, and like I remember someone saying like, "Oh, there's a twist in this, whatever," and it happened. I was like, "Whoa, that's a really good like
Mm,
twist."
mm,
And I was like, "That's how you do a superhero cartoon show. It's like more traditional, with like
mm.
way more optimism and whatever."
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
gotta tell you, the animation's really grown on me, and I'm actually really enjoying it. Like it's not like
Yeah.
Invincible level good or
Sure.
these kind of things, but for like a Marvel Studios outing, that's just like
Yeah.
a fun, different look at the Tom Holland character, in a different universe. I'm like,
Is he
oh,
supposed to be Tom Holland essentially?
well, it's a
It's a
variant.
variant. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
So
Yeah. But it
instead
is
of Tony's
officially a variant of the MCU proper.
officially,
Okay.
yeah. And so instead of, and here's the big like hook, instead of Tony Stark being his mentor, it's
Yeah.
Norman
Yeah.
Osborn,
Yeah.
played by
Right.
Cole Domingo, or and Coleman Domingo, and he's
Another.
blowing up everywhere, and he's great. So I would definitely check that out if you get a
Oh
chance,
yeah.
and they're easy watches, I think, and
Yeah. 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 I
um,
mean, listen. I mean, I wasn't that long ago. I was watching through the JLA, episodes and stuff, and I'm sure it's probably better than that stuff.
I don't
Like to
know,
a degree.
I need to
Oh,
go
really?
back
Okay.
and watch
At least
those.
more
Yeah.
modern.
Definitely, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely more
Yeah.
modern.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm excited for all the things we have coming in the pipeline. Very soon, we will have watched Captain America: Brave New World, and I'm hoping we can both
Yes.
convene and talk about that one. It's
Yes.
getting about the
Not great
reviews I
reviews.
expected.
Yeah.
No, even like it's like right now 53%,
It
and
went up.
the positive reviews are 5.56 out of 10s.
Yeah, they're just. I mean, it seems like the overall point is it it shows the struggles that we kept hearing about all the reshoots, all the writing, all that. It just seems like that is hamstringing it. That it just this movie just had a hard time coming together, and it didn't just quite click in the end
Yeah.
like it needed to be successful, really
Yeah.
successful. I mean, I've heard that
Rumor
like the
is,
acting's good. I mean, it's that it's just kind of everything's fine, nothing's amazing, but then the plot's a little lacking, kind of
yeah.
situation.
Yeah, everyone says that Sam Wilson really does become Captain America in terms of like he earns his place as Captain America, which I've
It's great.
seen so many things online of like Sam shouldn't be do this, DEI, all these
Oh
crazy
well,
things,
that's
and
ridiculous.
I've always been in love with Sam Wilson in the
Yeah.
MCU, not so much in the comics, but in the MCU. And I've really liked his character, Anthony
Hmm.
Mackie, that character, and I was excited to see him get the shield.
Yeah, I
Um,
was too.
yeah, and so hey, we got more time. I got to
Yeah,
ask you
we're
about
fine.
this,
Okay,
dude. That Thunderbolts trailer,
it looks really good. Yeah,
it looks
yeah.
so good. I
Now,
thought the last one was good.
wasn't the dude from Captain America: Winter Soldier supposed to be a part of the Thunderbolts too? The or
Yeah.
from Civil War?
Baron
Um,
Zemo.
yeah, is he not? Is he not part of the Thunderbolts?
He
I thought
has not been confirmed at all, but he is like that's been like a sticking point for the fans. Is
Is he
that
in the movie?
I don't think so. I don't know. I
Oh,
don't think
okay.
so. But
Okay.
he was, I think, one of the founding members of the Thunderbolts.
I thought forever ago, like some of the first stuff we ever saw from the movie had him in it, but I guess I'm misremembering. Yeah, I mean, yes, it looks great. It looks like a great team up with the fuck ups, kind of.
Yeah,
I mean, Suicide Squad, but a little more marvelly. You know what I mean? In terms of like, it's
definitely.
not quite as violent, not quite as evil characters either. It's more like
No.
it's more like anti-heroes, not bad guys, just made to do
Yeah.
good. But yeah, man, like the cast, I mean, it looks like it's gonna have great chemistry. I mean, obviously, I'm blanking on all the names right now. I'm gonna have to look it up. But the guy from Stranger Things, you know what I'm talking about.
David Harbour's Red
Yes,
Guardian.
David Harbour. He looks. I mean, he was always great. That he was one of the best parts of that Black Widow movie. He and the other girl from that one.
Yelena, who is
yes.
played by Florence Pugh. Yeah,
Yes, yeah, they were the best parts of that Black Widow movie, just objectively. And so it's fun to have them back and hopefully a better movie. But yeah, I mean, it does feel like it's going to be a fun, quippy, you know, action adventure with a lot of humor in it is kind of what the read in it
feels like Marvel has a lot of confidence in this and Fantastic Four.
Yes.
Way more than they did in Cap 4. Like it feels like it feels
Yes.
different. I don't know what it is. Like with like the CCXP convention showing like these kind of longer trailers. Like it feels like they're wanting to.
Yes.
They're really wanting to stride. Like they're wanting to get past Captain America so they can get to Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree, and I think it just this film feels like it had a very cohesive vision from the beginning. It knew what it wanted to be, and it seems like they're confident that it is what they wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Right.
This is the
I mean,
end
it
of
has
phase
it all
5.
for me as a cast. It's like you've got some of my favorite actors and characters from the MCU. Bucky Barnes, Sebastian Stan's in fantastic. I mean, he got nominated for an Academy Award this year. You know what I mean? He's such a good actor. Wyatt Russell as U.S. Agent, one of the other just coolest, fun, interesting gray area characters the MCU's had at all. You know what I mean? And just his whole arc and story is amazing. You know, the others are great and they're fun because, we've seen them once, but I think even just those two alone is like, I can't wait to watch a movie with those two guys and the back and forth and all that happens with that.
And we're getting the Sentry and it looks like the Void, like which is the
is that who the
Sentry's
floating character is the Void or the Sentry?
Yeah, which is essentially just Sentry, schizophrenic Sentry who's just like another personality.
Sentry
So-
hasn't been in the MCU, right?
No. But it's like that's Bill Pullman, son. I can't think of his last name, but he's Sentry, and it's like it's another personality that comes out that's like the worst thing ever. Like it's like, what do you do? And seeing like
Gotcha.
the shadows become like burn marks.
Yeah,
Where
that
the
was
people
cool.
become that's really cool visually.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to defeat the Sentry. I'm thinking
Right.
it will be they bottle the Void, so to speak, in terms of they uphill the Sentry's human side or
Sure.
whatever, and that may be how they do it. But when
What
the
is
trailers
the
got
whole
me
Sentry's
jacked.
deal? Is he supposed to be a good guy?
He's
or is
he's
he
basically government made Superman.
okay?
And he
Okay.
is arguably the strongest character in the Marvel comics ever.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And
So
so that's
is he eventually a good guy, or does he stay pretty much on the
he's
leash?
been like back and forth, Sentry
Okay.
Void, and then even as
Is
Sentry.
Void the one that can't control? Basically, he's off
Yeah,
the
Void's
deep end?
like all the worst impulses of Sentry just unleashed, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so I'm very excited to see kind of just where that goes and how they're going to
Yeah.
deal with it. There's no way they're going to make him the strongest thing in the world, because how in the world could
No.
the Thunderbolts defeat that?
Yeah.
But I'm excited for it, and it feels like old school Marvel in a good way.
Yes, absolutely. Even just like I said, it feels like it knows what it wants to be, and it feels like it's confidently nailing that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I think it does have that fun Avengers, little Josh Whedon-y quippiness that just is fun to have when you've got a great cast. I mean, like the first time we got to see Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. and all of them bouncing off each other, it was just so fun, just because you got to see those characters together, and it was fun and quippy and all that. And this one feels like that, but with that nice little shade of these are not just good guys. These are anti-heroes, which just gives it that a little extra flavor. And so I mean, I'm looking between this and Fantastic Four. I'm excited for the MCU. It does just feel like Captain is just like this. It's like this last sacrificial lamb before they got like it's like it does feel like a vestige of old Disney, of like it was had troubles back when Bob Chapek was around, and so like it is like a remnant of hopefully the older or the slump. It's a remnant of the slump. Hopefully we're getting out of the slump, but and of course you can't, like, there is part of this like, why don't you guys just like tax break it? But I get it, you can't do that. I mean, there'd be so many reasons why you would never do that, but it does just feel like we got to get it out. It's not going to do well, but let's just focus on Thunderbolts. Fantastic Four, I
think they did
I
try.
kind of feel the same way,
I do think that they wanted to be obviously they wanted to be good, but
Yeah.
the consensus is this is trying to be like older Marvel, but it's just not getting there.
Yeah.
And I'm still excited to see it. The thing I'm really
Yeah.
excited about is just this really is going to deal with a lot of threads. Like people are calling
I've
it
heard
an
that.
Incredible Hulk sequel. It's a sequel, a sleeper sequel to Internals, which is obviously
Yeah,
we've been
because of
talking about
Galactus,
for
or
years
not
now.
Galactus, but yeah.
Where is this? Where's Tiamat? Like where's this
Tiamat,
going on
that's right.
here?
Yeah.
And so the big thing too is I'm excited because we know Thunderbolt is coming, and it seems like we have Elaine in Congress saying there's no Avengers, but Sam is
Mm.
tasked by the president to form the Avengers. So like, where's
In
Sam
in the
Wilson? What?
in this movie, that's like kind of the
Yeah,
main
so
thing.
I
Okay.
mean, I'm
Okay.
curious to see what happens at the end of the movie
Yeah.
that kind of sets up Thunderbolts. So like,
There's no
what's
Avenger. Yeah. Yeah.
so I'm,
That's
I'm
interesting.
curious because where is Sam Wilson in Thunderbolts? Where
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
all these things? So
I did hear a slight spoiler about what the end credit scene is.
I do
But
not want to.
I don't know if it's real. It could be just
I've
made
heard
up.
it's inconsequential. That's only I've heard. I heard that it
I've heard
has a
it's
reference. It's a
it.
reference to the movie and nothing that sets
Oh,
anything up in the future. That's what
well,
I've heard.
I heard it was totally alluding towards Secret Wars, like just
Oh, I've heard the
complete
exact opposite.
yeah. Let's think about that now. Like essentially one of the Thanos moments we got before we got Infinity War, where it's just right
Yeah,
at
I've
the
heard
end,
that.
and we get one line, fine, I'll do it myself, or something like that.
Yeah, I've heard the exact opposite
Well,
of
maybe there's
like it's.
two. Maybe one's that
Well,
way, and one's the other way.
there's a possibility tonight we'll find out there's a second post, because like they
Yeah,
do press screenings.
yeah,
There's the
yeah.
premiere and they withhold stuff because right now there's only one after credit scene after the credits. There's no mid credit scene, and
Uh,
so far. So anyway, I don't
they've
know, but anyway,
announced or admitted. Yeah,
yeah, because I mean we didn't like Avengers. There's the shawarma scene that was
yeah, and it was
made
added late
after
too,
the
right?
after the
Yeah,
premiere. They shot it literally after the premiere, a few days before the movie came out. So
yeah.
yeah. So anyway. I'm excited to see what happens there at
Hmm.
Thunderbolts, Captain America this weekend, and Invincible tonight. So, Daniel, how can listeners write into us?
Listeners, you can write into bit.ly/241mail and let us know what you're thinking of these first 3 episodes of Invincible Season 3. Are you enjoying the plot lines? Do you have a theory about where it's going to go? I would love to hear your Oliver theories. It'd be great to get just like get some different theories about how Oliver would turn up. Will that even be dealt with by the end of the season, or is that just a continued arc? We have no idea, but we'd like to know your thoughts. bit.ly/241mail.
And if you can't hit us up at our Billy, you can always find us in the comment section below. Again, youtube.com/@241studios. It's the best place to consume all the content. And it was fun talking about Invincible. I'm glad we're starting this back up, and it feels like we're starting to get all the things we talked about last year. And
Yes,
I'm
we're not in a
excited.
drought anymore.
We're not in a drought anymore.
We're kind of
Yeah.
again, we're eating plenty. We're in like kind of a flood of just
Yeah.
stuff we've been waiting on, stuff we like. I mean, we're a month away from Last of Us season 2.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, like, I know Alien Earth is in April, right? I
Oh,
think.
it's April. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
I mean, or sorry, no, I guess both of those are April. So we're 2 months away from both of those. But still, I mean, I think the first half of this year is pretty fat and tasty on the TV side for sure.
And we get the Mac Daddy in July, which is Superman. So I'm
Yeah.
excited, man.
Yeah.
I'm excited. All right. My name is Donovan Thompson,
I'm Daniel Wingfield.
and we have spoken.